after 2 years of interaction with the COVID. I am very glad also that I will be the moderator of this very esteemed panel. I'm I am co-CEO of Elven Group, President of the National Association of Pharmaceutical Industries, and also member of the Board of Medicines for Europe. Together with us, we have Adrian van der Hoven, Director General of Medicines for Europe. Medicine for Europe produces 70% of the products used from European patients, 70% of the products in Europe. Mr. Georgiadis, Minister of Development. Mr. Dedes, President of the Association of Patients, Mr. Dimitris Demos, CEO of Demos and Vice President of PEV, and Mr. Ruda, who is the Director General of Egualia, the Italian pharmaceutical companies. So we will start with a short presentation by Mr. van der Hoven that will indicate to us the framework of the European Generic Association Industry and Medicines for Europe, and will set the framework for the next discussion.
Great, so it's really my pleasure to be back here in Greece. We welcomed you at our first conference after COVID in Athens in October. And it's great to be back here because I want to talk about some positive things following from the COVID crisis. I think everybody realized the importance of security of supply of medicines at that time and the need to invest in the manufacturing of those medicines right here in Europe, and why not right here in Greece. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what our industry is doing for Europe, but also for Greece. What the help of ministers like Mr. Georgiadis are doing for us at the European level to enable those investments, but also to warn about some challenges ahead linked to the high cost of inflation, especially energy inflation. So first thing I want to do is bring a little bit of positive news. So I think our industry has collectively recognized the importance of investing more in manufacturing here in Europe for patients and for the security of supply of our continent. And so we are engaged very heavily in this process now. So you can see that many of our companies are expanding their investments in the blue here. These are medicines factories investments across Europe. You have different company names or associations who are involved in this process. We're investing also in active pharmaceutical ingredients, because these are the chemicals that we need to produce the medicines. You'll see here many companies in this space, also investments coming here in Greece for the first time, so really big investments in security for Europe. We can see also for biologics, big investments from our industry into new biologic plants, also right here again in Greece, but also in other locations in Europe. This is important because, of course, in a crisis like COVID, these vaccine plants can be converted to other needs, such as vaccine, some aspects of the vaccine production, etc. And finally, we're investing in R&D for value-added medicines, repurposing of medicines, etc., in many locations in Europe. Again, also here in Greece. So very proud to see the industry reacting to COVID and responding with an investment which will create security, new jobs, and long-term investment for Europe. Now, what's important here is that we could not do this without the help of some visionary ministers, including Mr. Georgiadis, who understood that our industry needs a little boost because we are competing with China, India, very highly competitive countries. Some countries have used the RRF fund to enable investments into medicines production. Unfortunately, the EU has been very, very restrictive, so it has been challenging in this space. Because the criteria used at the European level, at the Commission level, is too restrictive and doesn't make sense to invest more in manufacturing. So that's unfortunate, but we are nevertheless working to move this forward. There's also a new opportunity. The French government has proposed a important project of common European interest. I think we'll hear more about that from my Italian colleague, because Italy is also involved. I hope Greece will also consider the opportunity to invest in this. But again, here, I think we need to underline the importance of strategic investment in production for security of supply, because the current definition is too limited. So we really need some discussions there to move that forward. One thing I'll warn, I think, is we're seeing a challenge now for the off-patent production in terms of energy costs. So obviously, prior to the war in Ukraine, the price of energy was already increasing significantly, but now it has multiplied, of course, due to this situation. But the cost of energy does not just affect the cost of production, it also affects logistics for air freight or shipping or fuel or anything you need in the medicine sector. And so this is really a big, big challenge. You can see here the cost of raw materials and active ingredients that are used for pharmaceuticals, the huge, massive spike of the increase in cost and the challenges this will bring, especially for off-patent generic medicines. And I'd like to really point out a very big short-term risk for many of the hospital injectable products that are the lifeline of public health in the hospital sector. These are incredibly cheap, incredibly inexpensive products at the hospital. When you have these massive spikes in costs and energy costs and the like, these are energy-intensive productions as you need to heat them and cool them, reheat them a second time. There will be an imbalance here between the cost of producing these and the sales. And we don't want to run out of important critical hospital medicines. Also, we don't want to affect small population off-patent medicines, because these are basically pediatric or children's medicines, and make them unprofitable and see the medicine for children being withdrawn. So I hope that we can work on some of these issues to make sure that our industry can continue to play its role of investment, supplying medicines and security. We have some short-term problems, but I know with good cooperation we can solve them. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. We'll get back to you. I would like now to come to Minister Georgiadis. Minister Georgiadis was one of the pioneers and also signed the very successful product of clawback offset with investments, which was a very big accelerator for investments, especially from the Greek pharmaceutical industries, but also from foreign pharmaceutical industries in Greece. The question is now that with the RRF program that we have ahead of us, which again is a very significant program, will we see the same accelerator and multiplier both for all the sectors of the Greek government, of the Greek economy, and also for the pharmaceutical industry? And what are the challenges of implementing successfully the RRF plan?
First of all, I want to thank Delphi Forum for the invitation, and thank you, Adrian, for the good words you told about me. I don't know if I deserve such good words, but thank you very much.
Yes, you do.
I have to say that I always believed that we shouldn't look as pharmaceutical industry only as a problem to our budget, but more, I want to welcome the Minister of Defense who entered the room, close friend, Mr. Panagotopoulos. So I wanted always to see pharmaceutical industry in Greece as a chance of innovation and growth of our economy. And I'm very proud because in Greece we have a significant pharmaceutical industry that managed to survive the crisis of 2010, 2015, which was not easy. That means that we have businesses not only good and efficient, but resilient. The meaning of resilient was invented in Greece, much more the RRF came to our life. So under this aspect, I'm optimistic for the future. And I'm optimistic for a second reason. Everybody knows here in the room that European Union, which don't want to be misunderstood, I love being a member of the European Union, it's the best place to be. But all good things have some bad things inside. The bad thing with the European Union is that it turns very slow. When they have a decision and a way they do the things, they don't want to change it. But suddenly, COVID-19 pandemic was a shock for the European Union. Suddenly, all European member states and the EU Commission realized that they didn't have drugs for their people. They didn't have masks, gloves, anything. Everything was coming from China, from Malaysia, from Indonesia. So they didn't have the materials for the pharmaceutical industry of the European Union. So this was a shock, a good shock in a way, because after that, for the first time in the European level, a concrete discussion about how we will fix our supply chains and we'll be sure that we will have all these materials under any circumstances should be in the table. And this is how the European IPCIs for health was invented. I'm very proud because as Minister of Development and Investment of Greece, I signed in 3rd of March of this year, among other 15 European countries, we are 16 with Greece altogether, that we built a very concrete team of countries that we decided that we want to participate in this European IPCI's program for health. We have a very clear strategic plan in front of us, and I think that both national budgets and European funding will come together to find ways to build a real strong European pharmaceutical industry that will be able to reply to the challenges of the time we now live. And I can say that Ukraine war, I mean the invasion of Russia and Ukraine to be just, made one more reason to be sure that we have to secure our supply chains. So I'm optimistic that in the months to come, in the years to come, you will see a huge progress in the pharmaceutical industry at European level.
Thank you. We will come back to you. Mr.
For RRF, I will tell you, you know that we built the law for pharmaceutical incentives through the clawback, the investment clawback. The second month I was a minister, I was named minister 9th of July, and we voted the law end of September. We're very fast in this government.
I see that.
We're very fast. It went really great. Now it has been transferred to the RRF program. Simon, thank you for the invitation. Mr. Tsomokos. A big applause for Mr. Tsomokos, who organized Delphi Forum. It was really, really important. Bravo. Bravo.
Thank you, Simon. Always glad to be here.
So I have to say that it went very well, and now in the RRF, we are trying to make it a more solid base. And I can answer some questions.
One thing is for sure, dear Minister, you will cut a lot of ribbons, red ribbons, in new plants during the next month and years, so that you will be proud of your initial signature.
Thank you.
Anyway, we'll come back to you. Nikos Dedes, you have a very, very important role. We must all make sure that we never forget that what we do, research, investments, come to address the patient needs. And clearly, we need to be much closer to the patients, and we are much closer to the patients. And I would like to tell you the following, that in Greece, this is very important, the local pharmaceutical industry can cover more than 6% of the patient needs. And with the new investments, we will cover more. But at the moment, are the patient needs in Greece adequately covered? And what can be done to ensure that access is improved?
Thank you to Delphi for the invitation, and thank you for your invitation as well. As many people now speak about the need for the health systems to be patient-centric, the Prime Minister spoke about citizen centricity. I'm very glad that the current Minister of Development and Investment is one of the most successful Ministers of Health.
We're close friends, so we don't...
No, but everybody recognizes this, and the current leadership that we have is part of your legacy, your colleagues, and I say this because it's very important for the Minister of Investment to have an interest in health, not only as an expense, but as an investment. I was very glad with the presentation because not only did you present the realization of the need to produce medicines in Europe, but also active pharmaceutical ingredients. Given the geopolitical uncertainty, we should not be dependent not only on energy, but on pharmaceutical ingredients all produced in China and in India, countries which have not proven to be very friendly. Coming to your question, it is clear that in Europe we need to citizens who can follow. So both in Europe and in Greece, we need to have citizens and patients who participate in the policy and also in the evaluation of the health systems. In terms of shortages, as we know, we were very lucky in Greece not to experience the same level of shortages that other countries experienced, which led Ms. Spiraki mentioned about how this has been recognized both from the Parliament, but also Minister Prevlis said that this was discussed in the last meeting of the Ministers of Health. So we will be participating and following, and hopefully with this new digitalization, we will have an opportunity to have a more direct participation in this.
But I think one very central issue will arise, and will arise more in the next years. And this is, of course, more difficult now with all this crisis. The new products, innovation products, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, are very, very expensive. So I think that we need to educate everybody to be able to follow health technology assessment rules. Are the patients or the Association of Patients in Greece ready to be able to say no to some products that are not essential but are maybe prescribed or marketed? Because we can understand that even countries like Germany, the most rich countries in Europe, cannot afford now all these expensive products. So they have all these health technology assessment rules. Of course, these are in place in more than 10 years. In Greece, we've started this to implement it during the last 1 year. And the patients here must play a very significant role. Do you think that can be done? Are we ready?
When health technology assessment does its work, it only provides benefit to the system. And the patients are interested for access, for fairness, for innovation, but above all, we are interested in the sustainability of health systems. And therefore, anything that does not prove to offer value should be seen with very strict rules. And therefore, I don't understand why innovation should be constantly more expensive. We are looking forward to innovative medicines who are not necessarily more expensive. So yes, health technology assessment will ensure that. And then, of course, the other thing that we know is that we need to increase the utilization of generics. When we hear 70% of medicines being used from patients in Europe, versus 30%, 29% in Greece, I think we are way off. And therefore, we have to improve this as well.
Thank you. Mr. Uda, the Director General of the Italian Pharmaceutical Industries, I would like first of all to say that Italy, like Greece, and of course Italy is a country, a much larger country, has a very strong local manufacturer footprint of the pharmaceutical industry. Now, can you share with us what is the plan of the Italian pharmaceutical industry using the RRF and the IPCI in Italy? And what are the issues that you have faced during this first preliminary phases?
So first of all, thank you very much to inviting me here. And I'm really lucky because most of the arguments have been already shared by our distinguished guest here. So there is clearly a shift in the view from the European Union and government in Europe toward the pharmaceutical industry. I think Adrian stressed two very important elements: security of supply and access to medicines. And this is really the core of our role in Italy. We represent more than 70 pharmaceutical companies active in Italy and in the rest of the world, multinational and national local manufacturers like in Greece. Well, I think that we really realized, like the minister said during the pandemic, and we have been the first country hit by the pandemic in the early days of March 2020, we started to work overnight, 24 hours per day, to ensure that patients in ICU units in hospital were able to take the medicines they need. And we discovered that we rely on a very important international network. So we are in a globalized world, and we have to recognize that we are working in a globalized supply chain. But at the same time that we were not able to be as resilient like we are now. So we learned a lot, and we decided to go together with the other stakeholder of the pharmaceutical industry. Egualia represents in Italy the generic biosimilars and value-added medicines industry, and we have also our colleague from the originator side joining together with us the forces in order to propose project. Well, we have at the moment more than 2 billion investment project ready to be assessed by the government and the European Commission. Our government launched 3 months ago the call for interest for the IPCI project, with one of the elements in there that was reshoring. So restarting manufacturing of active pharmaceutical ingredients, finished dosage form, and many other elements regarding research and development in our country. At the moment, we have more than 200 million euros under evaluation in terms of project in front of this IPCI, and many others are coming. It's a great initiative. It's the first initiative from the European Union in the pharmaceutical and healthcare sector using the IPCI channel. So it's really a green field to be discovered. There are bottlenecks, lots of them, and the reason is because the European Union decided to look in the last 25 years only to the internal competition, but most of the competition were coming from outside Europe. So this is the reason why we discovered that we were not resilient in manufacturing of medicines, we were not resilient in masks, in gloves, anything. So I think it's a very important occasion, especially for countries like Greece, like Italy, like Spain, France, Germany, where the manufacturing of pharmaceutical are based still yet in Europe. We only in Italy, we have more than 60 plants of our companies still operating, so it's a lot of plants operating in the country. And we have to take into account that pharmaceuticals are ethical goods, but at the same time, industrial product. So we need to cover cost, we need to cover the cost of raw materials, intermediates, manufacturings, and many other elements. So in order to put together all these elements, the IPCI could be one of the channels, but there are also others. The most important thing is to go really quick, because we are in a global challenge with other countries which are operating in the market. China and India are investing a lot in their local manufacturing base of pharmaceutical, but also the US. So we are not alone. We have to be really quick in responding to this global challenge. And I think that countries like Greece, Italy, and many others are ready to play their role. I'm also speaking on behalf of the other National Association of Medicine for Europe. I think it's a great opportunity, but really we have to be quick in responding to this need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With Mr. Demos, we had, and we'll write a book after when we retire. We faced 10 years of uninterrupted crisis. I will retire much sooner than Demos. So we faced 10 years of Troika, uninterrupted crisis, and of course very large cuts in the public expenditure of healthcare and pharmaceutical. Yet during the last years, even though of course the financials of the state and the economies were not great, we had some incentives, and we saw an unprecedented plan of investments from our industries. And 80% of the investments come from local manufacturing industries and 20% of multinationals. So my first question is that, do you think that we will be able to follow our investment plans? And now we have another interruption from the Ukraine war. But are you confident that these plans till 2025 will be implemented?
Well, I would like to thank you for the invitation to be today in the convention. Also, I'm very happy to participate in this panel because the topic is very relevant of what we're doing. Okay. Okay. So, and also I'm very happy to be part of this panel because the topic is relevant to what we're planning to invest. For the last 20 years, we have seen that the European Union has relied heavily on globalization. In general, the main strategy was to subsidize innovation, to have production units in the European Union for products under IP protection, and whatever was without protection, to source it from outside Europe. This created many problems to the local manufacturing, and also we had to compete external manufacturers from India and from China. The impact of this strategy in general was to reallocate a lot of manufacturing facilities from Europe to outside Europe, as first step raw materials, and as second step finished dosage forms. We have mentioned many times in the beginning of the economic crisis in Greece, and we have pinpointed in many occasions in many different conventions that in order to be independent as a country, you have to be self-sufficient in three elements: energy, food, and pharmaceuticals. Nobody cares if we're going to wear the trousers of last year or we're going to have a suit for 2 years, but if you don't have pharmaceuticals or if you don't have energy or food, this is the most important thing to survive. Unfortunately, we have seen that in a bad way over the last 3 years. First with the pandemic, where we had a lot of shortages across Europe, and now with the Ukrainian war, we see that energy is a very big problem, not only for the households, but also for our manufacturing facilities and for the production cost of our products. Also, there is a differentiation of pharmaceutical products compared to the other commodities that are sold in a grocery store or everywhere. Our products have fixed price. So if the government doesn't decide to increase the retail price, the production, our profitability every month is decreasing. So at some point, we're going to face shortages because it's not going to be profitable to produce anymore some types of products, especially low-cost injectables. So this is a major issue. Now, I believe that today, with the new reform from the RRF and with all the efforts that our Minister, Adonis Georgiadis, and also our current Minister of Health, Mr. Plevris, we have a new reform with the RRF for clawback offset with investments. This is a huge incentive for local pharmaceutical industry in order to have a new manufacturing site. But of course, to have a bigger capacity in terms of finished products or to have raw materials for first time in Greece, it's not, let's say, the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem is in the European Union to have a concrete tendering system as we have in Greece. In Greece, we are very lucky because due to the pandemic, we didn't face any shortages as happened in France or in Germany or in the UK. And they face problems because they have single winner tenders with only criterion price. While in Greece, we have implemented from the beginning of the economic crisis a multi-winner tendering system, and this is why we didn't face any issues. We have a lot of examples with sedatives for the ICUs during pandemic, where multinational companies, they never delivered product in Greece because they kept it for their own markets. And in Greece, we managed to produce more products and not to have shortages due to the local manufacturing.
Thank you, Mr. Demos. We will come back to you about specific plans for your company. Adrian, coming to you now. Resilience of supply. These are the key words that we hear. And of course, in order to implement that, we must make sure that we will prioritize key policy issues and challenges and the changes that need to be addressed. What do you think are the major changes, and what time frame do we have in order to implement these changes?
Yeah, well, I talked a little bit earlier about the EU funds for investment and things. I think the other thing that's going on, and there's a big reform of pharmaceutical policy, which will affect each country, also Greece, Italy, everywhere. And I think there are some good ideas coming out of there. So Mr. Demos said, first of all, there's a big discussion about reforming procurement along the lines of the model that you have here in Greece, because this single winner tender model is too extreme. It doesn't work. It is a cause of shortages, recognized by the Commission itself in its own studies. So this is something I think that will be reformed. But there are also some other things related to the sustainability and the use of generics. So I think the Commission is now very clear that countries with low use of generics and biosimilar medicines will be encouraged, pushed to use them more, because simply it's not affordable anymore in Europe to not use generics and biosimilar medicines to their maximum capacity. So I think there will be initiatives coming from the Commission to help countries, including Greece, which has a low use of generics, as you know, to use more so that it can be more efficient. And this can treat more patients, but also create space for new products. So these are some things also being discussed at EU level right now, which I think are coming.
Okay. Minister Georgiadis, there has been a lot of discussion about state aid rules in place. And of course, you're aware of that because you are in the forefront of discussing state aid rules with the head of DigiCom. These state aid rules, of course, we have seen a number of cases in many countries that do not encourage investments, but in certain ways, and especially in crisis time, where we have to respond quickly, they create issues and problems. Do you think that there is possibility that, even though you mentioned at the beginning that European Union shifts not very fast, but slowly, that we can see a discussion in the next year about how this can adapt more easily and more flexible, especially in response to crisis?
As our friend from Italy mentioned before, the structure of European Union and DigiCom was looking only into European Union, made some concrete and strict rules, but left totally undefended European businesses from any kind of bad competition from companies that are coming from abroad. I mean, for example, a Chinese pharmaceutical company or an Indian pharmaceutical company is taking huge incentives from their state, and then they are coming and selling products to European Union in which their partners or colleagues in the European level cannot have any access to this kind of incentives. So how this is just for the competition? It's not just. In the recent Ministerial European Council for Competition in Brussels last month, I raised this issue. And I told that we have to reconsider, especially in this turbulence time, all these rules in order to be much more flexible, even for a small period of time, even as a window of opportunity, to let the market reorganize and let the investments go much, much faster. 4 countries backed me into that position. It's not bad, it's not good.
It is a start.
Italy, unfortunately, was not one of them. Unfortunately, my colleague from Italy didn't raise his hand. I was surprised, I thought he would. Because Italy has also the same problem with Greece. And I would like to inform your government that only if we have a big European coalition through member states, we will be able to change these rules. Because we will wait some bureaucrats in Brussels to decide to change it, it will not happen. But if the majority of member states understand and raise this issue, then it will change. So we need to build stronger under member state alliances. 4 countries raised the issue means that DigiCom has to give us a written answer about what we said, but it will not change the rules. My experience from this investment clawback and all the negotiations we did with RRF and with DigiCom persuade me that it's very difficult to explain to people in the EU Commission how urgent is now the problem. We don't have any more time to lose. We either now make a big breakthrough in innovation and investment in the pharmaceutical industry and rebuild European pharmaceutical very competitive in global level, competing US and China and India, either we will decide that we will be relevant in this issue, will just be one place of the global market but not really important, and will depend our supply chains from other places of the world. Since I believe strongly the first, I would really care for a strong alliance between member states for that. And I can tell you again, you have to inform your government for that. We have to inform many other governments for that in order to make it happen. So, yes, there is a challenge in front of us.
So clearly the issue is on the table, and there are many voices and arguments that are being heard now that we have to move faster. So we also hope that some alliances will be formed there and fast. Mr. Dedes, I will ask you again about if you're satisfied about the level of patients' participation in decision making, and of course, what are the advantages of having local manufacturers here in Greece in terms of the patient perspective?
I think to answer the last part first, the advantage is clear. We did not face what other big countries faced during the pandemic. The other thing that I believe could obviously help is when we want to ensure that we have a correction of what we currently face in Greece, which is a lot of out-of-pocket expense, is that we want to have a landscape which ensures that everything is covered from the state, and only when patients want to have perhaps some different drugs, they should participate. Regarding the issue of participation, as I said again, when we had Minister Georgiadis, it was very easy to access the ministry. We've had other examples of ministers who were open, but did not institute a relation with the non-governmental sector. 3-4 days ago, in the new legislation, Minister Plevris included specific language which recognizes the role of patient organizations. Therefore, we're looking forward to having a more, and also the Prime Minister, when we had the honor to meet him, he said that he believed very much in this institutional relation. So I think we're getting there.
There are a number of issues here because, on the one hand, we have the public pharmaceutical expenditure. On the other hand, we have gigantic and very large contributions from the industry, and of course, we have very large contributions from the patient. Here, unfortunately, we have not realized the benefits from the generics. So do you think that we need to campaign more to the patients? And also, we should, what role should play the patients in order to be able to make sure that we don't have disincentives in the system, like, for example, the profit margins of the pharmacists?
I think health literacy is crucial. And I was thinking now that Minister Georgiadis mentioned that the Minister of Defense is here, I was thinking, oh, I should speak to Secretary General for Public Health to have interventions at the army where all these young people are there. And it's a great opportunity to do public health training and education. And obviously, having campaigns which explain to citizens the security and the quality of Greek medicines is something that we need to do. We all know that there were occasions where people were a little bit reluctant. I mean, we saw also how the absence of literacy led people either not to get vaccinated or to completely illogically prefer one or the other vaccine, even though the data were out there. So yes, I think we could work very much with the citizens in order to increase the understanding and acceptance.
Thank you. Mr. Ruda, do you think that the European manufacturing industry has chances to come stronger after the pandemic? And do you see any solid steps towards this direction?
Well, the answer is yes, under 3 conditions. But let me first of all say that I will go to Minister Giorgetti in the next following days to understand. But I'm sure, on the other hand, that the real negotiation will come very soon.
Yes, of course.
The IPCI is going to be the channel toward which countries like Greece, Italy, France that launched the project will start a very hard negotiation with the European Union. There is a challenge there because the IPCI instrument, as you know, has been developed for state-of-the-art innovation, beyond state-of-the-art innovation, but now we are facing issues with essential medicines, product that we really need in hospital, in pharmacies, etc. So I think through the IPCI and the call of interest that has been launched by many countries at the moment, I think Greece is following this line. It's the right, let's say, arena where the challenge and the negotiation will start. In my view, and in the view of Egualia, but also in Medicine for Europe, the three conditions are private investment and state aid, and so we have to change the rules, or to change the instruments that the European Union is using at the moment, because maybe they are not the right ones, and we have to adapt for the industry. Market condition. Italy share with Greece the clawback issue. Do you really think that for the off-patent industry, which is selling product at a very competitive price, in most of the cases we are participating to tender, it's something normal to ask to our companies a clawback? It's a nonsense. We are off-patent, we are competing, we are bringing competition.
I have to answer that.
Do you think it's a real, instruments to be utilized with our industry? We don't think no in Italy, and we are, opening the negotiation with the government. And third one, in this moment, we really need to avoid any measure on prices, because otherwise the sustainability of our industry, industrially sustainability, is going to be in danger, for sure. And the third condition, long-term strategy. So the pharma strategy will be absolutely crucial in transforming the instruments which the various governments around Europe have. But again, we have to be very, very quick.
Thank you. Mr. Demos, currently your company is a pioneer investor. You announced a program of 350 million of investments from your company. And can you translate to us how this investment plan will make sure that more patients have access, more unmet needs will be actually addressed, and how the market can be protected from shortages?
First of all, our investment plan is highly correlated with what we have discussed today here. We strongly believe that the European strategy will change sooner or later. They cannot keep factories outside Europe and having tenders with single criterion price, or having one winner for every tender. So multi-winner tendering system will apply to all European Union. Otherwise, at some point in time, and not far away, we are again going to have shortages. Yeah. I can tell you that because everybody congratulated 1.5 years ago an entrepreneur in Larissa who is manufacturing surgical masks. When the pandemic is over, if the hospital pharmacist will start again looking for the best price, they will find from China and India. So the factory will close. So if you don't change things, we're going to have the same situation after 1 or 2 years. So this is the major assumption for what we're doing. Now, our investment plan is divided into 2 categories. The one category has to do with conventional products. That means products with raw material of chemical origin. For this one, we're going to manufacture API facility, a raw material facility in Greece. It's going to be the first ever facility of raw materials in Greece. And it has to do with major APIs crucial for the public health. It is, I heard Ms. Spiraki to the previous panel that we had shortage or we had stock only for 3 days for paracetamol. So it's ridiculous for European Union not to have paracetamol or not to have penicillin during the pandemic. And shipping products of penicillin, the standard antibiotic, from Greece to Germany. So this is the main assumption. This is why we're going to start building raw material facilities in Tripoli. The second category of investment is we're going to build up a biofacility. It's going to enter Greece into the new technology of biosimilars and biological products in general, and it's going to have triple purpose this investment. First, as an academy to train the new scientists in Greece in the bioprocessing technology. Second, we're going to act as CDMO, contract development for researchers from Greece and abroad, in order to examine the research in industrial scale. And third, we're going to develop our own biosimilars. So in total, this is going to have an impact of about 1.2 billion euro in the GDP of the country. We're going to create 6 new well-paid jobs in Greece, and indirectly, we're going to have another 3,500 jobs.
Very impressive, but also together with Mr. Demos, with the investment that his company has planned for oncology products, and the investment that Elpen has planned for oncology products, we plan to cover around 20% of Greek patients with locally produced oncology products, especially of the newer generation. At the moment, we cover 2%. So imagine this impact that we'll have to make ensure that in crisis, and unfortunately crisis is now, we see them every couple of years, to cover patients in need. So thank you, Mr. Demos. Mr. Georgiadis, I would like to come back to RRF. Now, are you confident that Greece will be able to implement it? Because we need to do it fast. And moreover, if you see that in certain sectors of the program we don't have the effectiveness and the absorption that we want, will you be able to channel it to other sectors, like the pharma industry? Some more funds?
First of all, we will manage to implement it, and we will manage to absorb it. We are very good in absorbing European funding, as we proved ourselves in the recent 3 years, and I'm very proud of it. I understand that investment clawback in the RRF is more bureaucratic, as we had it in our national budget, for the reasons we explained before. But even under this context, we will still be able to absorb it. So I have no worries and thoughts how we will redirect the funds, because we will absorb it. But because we talked about the IPCIs, I want to say that since we support the start of the process towards the deployment of health IPCIs and the initiation of its next steps in coordination with the European Commission, the EIT Health and European Industry. In that context, during the following weeks, we are planning to launch the non-binding call for proposals, and we expect for the interest of the relevant parties in the fields of manufacturing and health industries. So you will be ready to come and start the process of IPCIs. We mean business. We are not participating just to say we are a member of a team. We are participating because we want to invest money and we want to have results.
I think this creates many hopes. So I will try to summarize. I think that we have initially some positive news for the patients, which is very important, both for Greek and European patients, of course, with certain circumstances. Especially in Greece, I think it is very important not to forget that we come out of 9 years of financial crisis. We all lived through this austerity period. We came out of the pandemic crisis, and now we have a very big unknown of us, the consequences of the Ukrainian war or invasion. We see very big disruption in budgets of households, very important, and of businesses, because of the energy prices soaring, the inflation is soaring. So, in view of all the above, we have a continuous investment plan, both from Greek companies, 1.2 to 1.5 billion investment plan from Greek pharmaceutical companies that will result in more than 12 new production units, many new production lines, many R&D centers. We'll have, as I said, Dimitris said, the first biosimilar plant, and also we'll have the first innovation park from our company, Elpen, which will also address issues of the future, personalized medicine and biotech incubator, all these things that we're trying to bring Greece to the next decade with patient benefits. So, also in Europe, a new dialogue has started. Medicines for Europe participates very actively. That will hopefully put pressure to increase resilience of supply and keep the supply channels open. This will again benefit the patients. It is not easy. We face many challenges. As it was been said before, in 5 out of 6 countries where Greek companies sell all over the world, there are protectionist measures. Here we don't want protectionist measures, but we want to make sure that some of the disincentives are being raised. The other issue that we heard is that patients want to take a much bigger role in health technology assessment. Cost and affordability of new pharmaceutical products will be the most basic challenge that we will face in the next 5 to 10 years. Nobody will afford these prices unless there is an intervention, and only the patients that need these products take them at affordable prices. Michael said about the challenges and also the plans of the Italian industry, and we want to be aligned to raise the issues of disincentives from the state aid rules. And Mr. Demos presented the production plan, the plans of his company, the productions. And Adrian, do we have a positive note for the European
I have one positive
industry
note for the minister here. So you've done great work. And I think you've seen a return because you've seen with the big effort you've put in with the Commission, with the plan of the Greek government, you've seen a return with new factories, new R&D centers, jobs, security for the Greek patients, and lots of benefits. Now the bad news, we need you to keep going because it's not over. You've announced now, and this is great news, Greece's direct participation in the IPCI. We need to bring Italy, Greece, and all the pharmaceutical manufacturing countries together around this to make sure that we can create the security of supply for Europe by having more production in Greece, more production in Italy, and to achieve the great vision you're putting forward. So the good news is you're doing a great job. The bad news is you've got a lot of work ahead of you and we need you.
You can come to vote us next year.
Next year, okay. Well, and of course, we have to address the issue of the overtaxation of all pharmaceutical companies in Greece with the clawback. It reaches 70% of all taxes that we have to pay. But this is for another panel. Thank you all for your participation.